Greetings, nerds. This is CNN Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very, very well, Sarah. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. I'm a bit numb, I guess, emotionally and everything. I'm going through some stuff, but it's all good. We also have joining us because we are going to break down the Arrowverse season finales is Miss Veronica Rose.
Hey, you guys. How you doing?
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
Yeah. Sarah's sour on the Arrowverse, so we need to have somebody who's not.
I'm what? I'm sour?
Yeah.
I'm sour?
On the Arrowverse. At least you were.
You're not sweet on it.
No.
I don't think anybody is.
I got a better taste in my mouth after this week.
So what are your thoughts on the Arrowverse, Veronica?
Well, considering I'm only watching Arrow and Legends right now, I have no idea what's happening on The Flash or Supergirl. I'm happy, for the most part, I'm happy with how Arrow kind of, ended. Am I happy with the overall season? Maybe not. I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how I really feel. I don't know. I feel like I'm still trying to process what happened, not in an emotional way, but more in a, analytical way. So, I'm still kind of on the fence about it, but as for Legends, I'm still so hardcore about that show and I love it and everything, but it's, that's pretty much the only two that I really care about.
Well, we have a new show that you might care about that had its upfront today, and the full trailer was released. Have you guys had a chance to see it?
Yes, Batwoman.
Batwoman.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Sarah, have you watched it?
I saw 70% of it.
Okay.
I think I'm ready for something different as far as lead character. I'm interested to see where they're going to go with this, and I know a lot of people are pretty much down on CW and how they've pretty much disappointed a lot of people. But considering that Batwoman is she's very specifically, a queer character that's a superhero, that alone is enough to make me want to watch it. I don't need to worry about ships. Who's going to be her girlfriend, who's going to be the love. I don't care about that stuff. I'm just kind of interested in them showing a strong female lead that is not part of an ensemble cast, whereas Legends is an ensemble cast. And so it's hard to make Sarah Lance the one main lead of the show, where in this case, Batwoman, they can focus on just Kate Kane and kind of, give us a new look into a different type of, world as far as female superheroes go, at least for the CW.
Yeah. I was very pleased and impressed with the first full trailer. It had a very almost cinematic feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the music and the shots that they utilized and really did a good job of just setting the table as far as introducing us to the various characters. Obviously, we see Lucius Fox, so it ties into the current universe as far as Batman and things that we're familiar with, but also in the Batcave and her story. Of course, every superhero has to have a tragic story, and so in Kate's case, it was her father running this company, and her mom gets caught in the crossfire, and so that's how she becomes why he made that point in the line in the trailer as far as like you all have left. So I thought it did a good job of setting the table for this upcoming series. Seems to try to definitely show how it's going to differentiate itself from the other established shows. As you said, trying to show us a strong lead character, strong female lead character, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and looking at the schedule as far as how they paired it with Supergirl on Sunday night. They definitely I think are picking up some of the world's finest vibes from Elseworlds.
So the trailer was good. I think it's funny how much Ruby Rose looks like Robert Pattinson. So.
Oh God.
Yeah, they are kind of stepping on themselves as far as the bats today, aren't they?
Yeah. So what is this Crisis on Infinite Earths 5-hour event?
Yeah, so as part of the upfronts today, they basically broke the news as far as how they're going to do the Crisis crossover. So basically, it is a 5-hour event. They said in 2 quarters, which was very confusing the way they worded it at first, but saw some clarification on what they meant by 2 quarters. So basically, the first half of it will air in December, and then they'll go on hiatus like they always do, and then the last, I guess, 2 hours of the event or 3 hours of the event will air in January when they come back from hiatus. So all the shows are going to be involved. Legends is going to be a part of it, so maybe that'll be their season premiere kickoff as far as the Crisis. Batwoman is going to be there. Arrow, whatever's left of Arrow at that point, and the Flash as well. So of course our season finales with the Flash and Arrow both sort of set the stage for the Crisis to follow through the threads that they had established in Elseworlds. But that's essentially during the upfronts they basically set out what they're planning on doing with the crossover event.
And then you said that they released a synopsis for the final season?
Yeah. So basically it's just a very simple paragraph, just basically picking up on what we saw in the finale, which is what will the future hold for Oliver as he puts himself up with the most challenging battle yet, where the multiverse is in the balance. I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what the synopsis said for the Arrow final season that was introduced today at the upfront. So we clearly got that established in the finale this week, and of course they reiterated that that's what season 8 is going to be about. So yeah, we get that, and also Arrow is moving to Tuesday night as well after the Flash. So with the scheduling, it'll be Supergirl and Batwoman on Sunday, Black Lightning, even though it's not an Arrowverse, but it'll be returning for season 3 on Monday nights, and it's being paired with All American. And then Flash still at their usual spot at 8 o'clock, and Arrow in its final season will be on at 9 o'clock on Tuesday night. And actually, it's the first time they've actually been paired together in their runs, which is
yeah, that's a first.
Yeah, so that's going to be the schedule for the fall.
Veronica, yeah, that's the first. You said that so weirdly. So wait. I'm sorry. I kind of also glazed over when you were reading the synopsis, and not because it was boring, but because the synopsis itself, I'm just kind of confused here. They're really going to have Arrow season 8, the final season of a series, be Oliver playing bitch to the Monitor.
Pretty much.
That's how the series is going to end.
Yeah, but also during the upfronts, the president of the CW network also said that the door is open for Emily to come back.
Well, of course it is.
Yeah, but if the story, but
it during this finale,
right? But if he basically put a little caveat on there. If the story makes it a very natural way to integrate her into it, so So it's not a done deal. I mean, I guess obviously it depends on what her schedule's like.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
she's going to be doing so much already. I mean, she's already got I think they're like a movie or something on top of the off-Broadway play that she's doing. And I would be surprised if she doesn't keep just booking, She's doing so well outside of Arrow that she's not gonna, I can't see that they're gonna be like, oh, we're gonna have her come in and out all throughout the season. I feel like save her for like one final big episode or something. I don't know.
Well, I think just have her pop up in the series finale. I mean, that's usually what they tend to do, especially with characters who leave midway through, make at least one appearance.
Yeah.
Right.
Curtis.
What?
Right.
Curtis.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. See, I don't know. I'm just like, I'm not, everybody is like seriously like freaking out. Arrow Twitter. And they're trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to understand. At this point, I'm not going to even bother trying to understand what's happening because I think they don't even know yet what they're trying to do. I think they have an idea. They maybe have like some sort of an outline of what they're planning. But I really don't think that any of the showrunners or anybody in Crisis, as far as production's concerned, really knows what they're doing just yet. And it's just kind of confusing. And so for me, it's like, okay, they're giving us the gist of it. They're letting us, okay, this is what this is what we're hoping for. This is what we want. But I don't want to try to figure out what's happening. Everybody is already putting out their conspiracy theories on what's going to happen, and then they're also talking about what they hope happens. And I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because that leads to being completely and sorely disappointed by this season, just like what happened last season. Like, too many expectations were abound, and then all of a sudden it was like, wow, that was not what I was expecting. And people were, became, in the nicest way I can say, emotional over it. To the point where, people even like actual friendships kind of broke up because of, dueling ideas about, I like the show, I hate the show, and so I'm like, at this point, I just want to wait out the summer, enjoy all the shows that are coming out this summer, and then when Arrow premieres, and I'm ready. I'm ready for Crisis. I'm going to have a clean slate, and I'm going to watch it as its own separate type of show rather than expecting Arrow.
Yeah. Well, it is going to be its own type of show with the way things ended with the finale. So, which actually felt more like it felt like a series finale, and then all the backdoor palettes that everybody was trying to say was going to happen with Mia and Black Star. Seems like we're getting to that with season 8 possibly.
Nobody wants it.
Yeah, I'm just saying. That's just I'm just doing what Veronica said not to do, but
Wait,
but I think that I really don't know. I think Emily's leaving was a surprise to the showrunners in some form or fashion. I mean, I think they did have to. They probably had things go one way, but because of her leaving, they definitely had to adjust. And honestly, and the finale just really did feel like a series finale in many regards. And I think in some respects, whenever we look back at season 8, we will see that as far as the OTA, what we've known as Arrow, seasons 1 through 7 did end at the end of season 7, and we get this abbreviated season that we will see, as you said, Oliver being the monitor's bitch.
I think what happened too is, and I've seen a lot of people, confused by this, and I'm not talking about like the stands or whatever. I'm talking about just like regular people who just enjoy watching a show and they at it. A lot of people are really confused, you know, because they went back and forth between, you know, the flash forwards and present. And I know a lot of people were just like, we don't understand like what's happening like with the flash forwards, what we're going to get next season. And then they keep bringing up like, okay, so Future Star City doesn't exist or exist. And it's kind of like they just left so much up in the air that I really hope that when they come back next season, they give us some answers, because even though we got a really good goodbye from, you know, OTA with that final scene of them together in the bunker, I still am left with a lot of questions. Just like, and it has nothing to do with like the family stuff or, you know, raising Mia or any of that. For me, a lot of the questions are like, okay, how did this start? Or how did, you know, all of a sudden William's in charge of a company, and okay, so Felicity set that up and he didn't know, and I know like there's all these other little, you know, underlying stories that have kind of come up through the season with the flash forwards, but I'm just at a point where I'm so tired of trying to figure it out that I don't really like how the last few episodes went, but I'm not completely disappointed with the finale. You know what I mean?
No, because I didn't watch the last few episodes.
Oh.
Is Will now
Why
gone?
are we here?
What's that?
Where did Will go? I'm not the only one disappearing.
No. I'm here. I was listening to Veronica.
So I don't know why everybody's so confused about this. I think that the writers basically did this to themselves because they made a decision last season to have Oliver reveal himself as the Green Arrow. The moment you do that, suddenly you're gonna lose part of what a superhero show is about, the dual identity, and that's the whole premise. So the moment they made that decision, I feel like they were planning for quote unquote endgame, essentially. And everybody heard Michael Rosenbaum's interview with Stephen Amell the summer before season 7 started airing, and everybody immediately started throwing like red signals. Somebody's getting ready to leave. And so on one hand, I think you're right, Veronica. The writers were very surprised that Emily Bett left, but I think they were also, they did some magic when they re-secured Stephen Amell. Mm-hmm. Because of how this ended, I think they really weren't expecting that. And maybe they had already known back when the mid-season finale, because everybody knows this season took a sharp turn left the moment the crossover aired. And it was because when the way they left that, all we're thinking about is Crisis. Mm-hmm. That's it. Mm-hmm. I mean, game over. Who cares about Amiko? Who cares about the Ninth Circle? Because we know that they pass it. Because there's a bigger threat.
Yep.
And
I'll say it. I didn't like what they did here with it's such a cop out. I'm sorry. Oliver and Felicity, they get their happily ever after. I'm happy, but it's a cop out move that he's still in this place, obviously, where he paid a penance, but he can never return to his family and to the life that he knew. So now she's going to go and join him like 20 years later. So to me, it just feels like I don't know. I don't like it. It doesn't sit well with me.
Well, I know we joked last week when we finished our recording that we thought that that would happen somehow after Crisis, that they would go into this like, happy place in Valhalla or whatever after he sacrifices himself or whatever. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, you're right, it was telegraphed and they did both with Arrow and Flash. I think with the Elseworlds and launching Crisis, it did basically undercut the storytelling for the second halves of those show seasons. I think you are correct there because yeah, I will say that the Flash did do a little better job using the Crisis and integrating that into their storyline, because otherwise, obviously the Cicada storyline just did not work, and they had written themselves in boxes with that. But at least the tease from Elseworlds with Crisis worked a little bit better in that, so that even with whenever we get the change in the headline date at the end of the episode, it was sort of like it was expected. It wasn't a surprise, but I think overall they did a better job of integrating the known thing that we're going to get in the fall into the story.
So okay, before we jump into the Flash discussion, the other problem I have with especially what happened in the second half of Arrow season 7 is Black Star. I really liked her at the beginning of the season. I liked how they did the flash forwards. Then suddenly it felt like they ran into season 4 problems with the flashbacks, of where everything just felt like, oh, we have to show you now. We can't wait to show you what happens to Dinah's neck. And so we'll have a whole episode about that. We have to show you what happened with William, even though the moment William's gone, suddenly they find out she's pregnant with Mia. So everything started feeling rushed and almost like we have to explain ourselves so that everything in the first half of this season makes sense. And it just, I really don't like how they're going to do this spin-off show that nobody asked for. Like, to me, they can find another character. They can find, actually, I mean, the fact that we have Batwoman now, why do we need Black Star if we're going to have Batwoman?
Well, I think I think you made a good point there, Sarah, that maybe all of the theory spirals that this is a backdoor pilot is just off, and it's not a show that folks have asked for, and it's not going to be one. I mean, it could definitely be where we will see in season 8 of Arrow, Oliver and some of these other characters still. I mean, Star City has been saved. Given that they only have 10 episodes, and given how they left things with the Monitor, it really could be a situation where we're seeing some of those events that lead up to the Crisis, and maybe Arrow, and maybe with all of these shows in the first part of the season, various elements of the Crisis will be the focus of those episodes.
This season was so convoluted. Like, they really didn't need to bring Emiko into this season. Like, there was no reason to introduce her if they were going to spend so much time on flash forwards and trying to explain what's going to happen in the flash forwards with the current present day, stuff. Adding Emiko was really a bad decision. Yeah. And the other thing that Beth Schwartz would say things to the fans like, oh, but just keep watching, it'll explain itself. It's like, why did you guys have to stretch this out? I mean, why did you even have to bring in Emiko and bring in this completely just unnecessary story arc that we didn't need? It made everything so busy, and it was to the point where you were just like, oh God, can we already get to the point? You know, they were doing so much with her story, and yet they're still trying to do these flash forwards, and it just seems like everybody was running around like a chicken without its head. And it was frustrating because we didn't need the Emiko story. Like, we didn't need it.
I think I'll disagree a little bit there. I think it was, I will concede the point that things were getting very crowded as far as threads. But I think the Dante story and the Ninth Circle, whenever we first were introduced to it, when Diggle and Lila were in Europe, and portrait that was painted and with Dante, and there was that air of mystery and stuff, and so I think that worked very well. I think where it went sideways was when they killed off Dante very, very quickly and made Emiko the focus of and leader of the Ninth Circle, because unfortunately the character wasn't developed enough and wasn't portrayed well enough to give the weight and seriousness and believability that they were the energy and the focus behind the Ninth Circle. So I think that's where it faltered, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. Unless, Emiko is going to play a part in the flash forwards and in the future and whatever, I just still don't see how there is a purpose to her if she's not going to have a play in this. And the Ninth Circle, I don't know. It just...
yeah, I think she's pretty much been taken off the table.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear.
And not only that, but
unless they
when
go
Arrow
to
went
a
into
different
the
Earth
whole,
or something.
When they brought the team in to be part of, the cops and being their vigilante task force, that was just too much, And like Sarah says, Oliver revealing who he is took away from the intrigue of the show. And and then having them work with the police, which was basically a corrupt police system to begin with on that show, all of that was just, that just didn't work for me. And I wish that if they knew they were going to be saying goodbye to Arrow, the way it was, they should have gone back to what made it so good to begin with. And they didn't. They had the opportunity to do it, and they didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm not happy completely with the season.
Yeah. I mean, that being said, I do believe the first 7 episodes of the season are probably some of their best writing of the entire series and the best acting. Because when Oliver was in prison, it was brilliant. I mean, I was fully engaged. I was like, this is on fire. They can do no wrong. And then they released him, and you had a few episodes, and I bring it up because, Veronica, you're absolutely right. And thank you for mentioning it. The deputization. It's like, no. Why? It makes everything so much more complicated, especially when you hear vigilantes are outlawed in the future. And why and what the whole heck is the point of all this if you save a city that then also your wife corrupts unknowingly because she's a genius? And of course people are going to want her technology. So it got to a point where, I love these characters, and I think that's why where there's so much emotions is that when characters are not, it's not that we're trying to have a say on how the story should be, But when you join a fandom and suddenly you feel like the writers minimize or just suddenly don't treat your characters correctly, or how, like, or suddenly they take a very wrong turn, it just hurts, because it's like it's just as kind of like somebody is taking away some of your joy and appreciation from a story that you love so much.
Mm-hmm. I can't agree more, because when when had the beginning of Arrow this season, I agree. It was great. The whole prison thing. I mean, I was like, yes, we are back to the Oliver Queen that I was excited for. And then all of a sudden it just went to crap.
It's like if you're
with the whole police force.
It's like if you're a Star Trek fan. You tell everybody, watch Wrath of Khan. And then they say, well, what about this one? And you have to say, it's not as good. Yeah. Suddenly you have things like you want to show and you want others to get on board, and you're like, but don't look there, look here.
Yeah. Stay away from Star Trek 5.
Who cares about the whales?
Yeah. No. That was the whales was a good one. That was this was the one with Spock's half brother.
Yeah.
They go find God in that one, which was just, that's the one that Shatner directed. I'll just leave it there.
Oh my God.
So let me ask you guys, do you believe that when Felicity met with the Monitor, that Oliver is dead, or is he alive and she's going to him? Or do you believe, because everyone's like, oh my God, he's dead and she's going to go be with him in heaven or something. It's like,
no. I'm sorry, I don't. I saw some tweets about that, and I'm sorry. Did we forget who the Monitor was?
Right?
God.
Exactly.
Oh my God. I'm like, I don't know why it's hard for people to realize that the whole time that they've been apart, it's not because he was dead. They just made everybody believe he was, but he wasn't dead.
I have a better question for you. Since when did we stop caring about Diggle? We have no idea where he is in the future.
I know.
Why isn't anybody talking about it? What does it say about us as viewers?
Well, it says, again, many people, the focus of the show was olicity. And that's, I mean, to his benefit and to his detriment. And so I think you raise a very good point. No one is asking what happened to John.
I mean, we know he took care of Connor and John Jr., and there was a falling out, but there were 2 lives that needed to be sacrificed. Because, I mean, isn't that the whole point? Balancing? And both Kara and Barry died.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So, what the heck? Why is it that the Monitor's like, okay, well, 2 lives needed to die simultaneously there, but to balance it out, we will take this life and then wait 20 years.
Yeah, it's a little frustrating, I guess, because we're all kind of like, okay, so what happened? But I keep thinking, like, as far as Diggle is concerned, like, somehow, even though he's not really mentioned in the flash forwards, but there's this tease of him coming back as Green Lantern in Crisis, that something is good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just hoping that that's what it is like, if they're silently making him, like, not be talked about because they're going to give us, like, the greatest of all time. I mean, because if they really do, if they come with Diggle being Green Lantern, I will die.
It's very possible. They set the stage.
Well, then I don't want it to happen.
They said, what?
Dark. God, Will is just like, okay, Veronica, you can die then because it's going bad.
You can die happy. Well, they did set it up in Elseworlds, and then they carried it forward when we met his stepfather. So
Yes.
with
And
Stewart.
that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
That would be fantastic. I can't tell you how much don't say that, because
It can happen with
everything
Crisis.
before I watched Arrow, I didn't know about the actual show, like who was, like, I knew that they had a hint or a tease of like Black Canary, and that was all I knew. I didn't know about like any of the other characters. And when I started watching it, because I watched seasons 1 through 4 on Netflix, I kept going, okay, so when are we gonna get like Hal Jordan or Jon Stewart, or when are we gonna get because I'm in my head, I'm thinking back to the comics. I'm thinking like he and Green Lantern, and then when they introduced Barry, I was like, oh, okay, we're going to get Barry Allen. That's pretty cool. But they never came out with that. And so I always saw Diggle as that person, as the Green Lantern, even though he became Spartan. But if that happens in Crisis, I will be happy with the crossover.
That very well could happen. And they've been teasing a Green Lantern forever with the Ferris Air and and then of course we got Flash 90 saying, "John, I didn't recognize without your ring." So
yeah.
So it's very possible. It's very possible, and he's just going off to be a Guardian somewhere. And another
that would be a great end to the whole thing for Arrow.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole point of Crisis, is to like blow up things, and as we know, the CW takes the source material and puts their own spin on it. So, what better way for to send Diggle off is to become a Green Lantern for another sector.
So, Sarah, you're an Olicity shipper. How did you like the end?
I talked about the ending, right? I called it a cop-out. Why are we leaving? Veronica, Will is desperately wanting to talk about the Flash. You do realize that, right?
It's okay. It's okay. I don't have...
Huh? Mine?
Yeah, like what do you mean? How did I like the...
I mean, the family stuff they showed us, like the fluffy, they get to the cabin and they have a baby and they cuddle and all that stuff.
If you had shown me that like 3 years ago, I probably would be on the floor just in a ball of emotions and joy. I'm dead inside at this point.
Yeah.
I honestly forgot about it.
They did use your song from your video though, so hey, there's that.
They did, and I noticed the spike in my views on that. It's still not nearly as many as I would hope, especially because I thought it was one of my better ones. But some pop and others just die. No, I'm really not trying to be sarcastic about it or anything, but I honestly forgot about those scenes until you're like, with the kid, and I was like, oh yeah, it was cute. It was fluff.
I didn't have much of a reaction either, so because I'm not that person. Like, I see a kid and like people having kids, I'm like, cool, just keep it far away from me.
I think that, I'm more of a shipper when it's angsty and broody, not when it's happiness. I don't think I like the... No, I bet you could write so many articles about the different types of shippers, because I bet it's true that there's some people who just love the fluffy happiness, joy of two people being madly in love. And then there are other shippers who feel like the whole story is based around whether these two people will get together and stay together and have a happily ending. Well, the moment that happens, the story's over. So anything beyond that point, it's like, no, I figured that out. Thank you. Don't need to see it. Tell me something I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, I'm happy that the majority of fans got, you know, the happy family stuff that they wanted. I don't, you know, I'm not dismissive of their happiness. I am not dismissive of their joy, of their emotional reactions to it. I think it's fantastic that they got it. I think for me, out of that whole thing, the thing that I got the biggest, like, aw moment out of is when the three of them were in the bunker saying their last goodbyes to each other. That for me was like, that was what I was happiest about, because that's what I started watching the show with, and being able to see the three of them, and then they both, you know, Diggle and Felicity walk away, and then here comes Oliver, you know, just this one shot, a 360 shot of him. That I thought was really cool.
I did not like, I liked that scene. I thought it was kind of stupid how they kind of did the 360 shot and then turned the lights out on him. I would have at least had him leave and then shut down the facility. Like, having him just stand there, I'm suddenly thinking to myself, dude, are you going to run into Felicity's computers? Because she might come back and kill you. Like, who cares about the monitor?
You thought a little too far into that one.
Logistically, it doesn't make sense, Veronica. I'm sorry.
It just made me think of, like, the beginning of the series when they had that close-up of his face and his eyes, and then they ended the series with, or at least that goodbye, they ended it with that close-up of his face and his eyes. I thought that was pretty cool.
See, this is why Tasha should have been on the show, Will, because instead of all of the sourness from me, we could have witnessed Tasha and Veronica talking about Arrow and basically probably trying to one-up each other on, like, do you remember in this episode and they did this? You know how it relates exactly to what happened there? And me and you are just like, oh my God. But in all seriousness, Will is just being so polite, and I know it's killing him because he really liked this episode of The Flash, despite everything leading up to it. So I have to cut off the Arrow pop talk for at least 10 minutes. Will, lay it on me. Why did I not emotionally get it? No, I'm not going to say that. Run through it with us. What were the highs? What were your lows of the season finale of The Flash?
Okay, I'll start with the lows. And I think anyone, well, it's pretty much what most of the fandom would feel. Obviously, the Cicada storyline finally was over. And it was just all the problems that they had with Cicadas 1 and 2 were apparent in the finale. But the one thing that The Flash does do well is they did use the very, very weak villain to get to the real villain and the best villain that they've had from day one, which is Thawne. And so, I'll leave Cicada alone for now. Put him away, her away, and let's never speak of them again. So what the second half of this episode was why I still hold on for hope for this show, because they did an amazing job of pulling all the threads, at least as with regards to Eobard Thawne, together in this finale. And from the utilization of the person who won't be named Stagger, and also all the callbacks throughout the season where they did the reverse time hack, as you noted, with when they were in the time vault and Nora blurted out, whenever he discovered who she was, and how Thawne used just the mind fuck with everyone, like with Cisco, and basically like making Cisco feel, you know what, I don't need to be a meta because I don't really want to thank the guy that gave me these powers to begin with. So it made sense to close that arc out that they've been sort of laying the groundwork for throughout the season with Cisco, questioning being a meta and thinking about taking the meta cure. And so when he took the drug, I was like, okay, fair enough. That in some regard made sense. Now, I will say what you guys talked earlier about writing and how it's very hard sometimes when you've gotten so attached to a character and certain attributes of a character that the writers take them on this journey that you don't necessarily agree with. And I saw a lot of that during the season from other folks as it relates to Cisco. But for me, the way they utilized Thawne in the finale made sense for why Cisco, and the whole theme of the season has been legacy. And so Cisco didn't really want his legacy to be centered around Eobard Thawne as far as him being a meta, him being a hero, that he's more to that. There's more to him than just being a meta. So I thought that was very good. The resolution with Nora. So I like Nora as a character, but again, I didn't feel that emotion. I felt actually more emotion, just to get back to Arrow, with what I saw with Oliver, Felicity, and Diggle in the cabin. Nora's story, it was one of those things where, since I wasn't really emotionally attached to her, it was kind of like, okay, I was sad to see it happen. It was predictable what was going to happen. And again, I like the way that they utilized the, negative speed force. Again, I had commented to someone back a few weeks ago. I wish they had carried that negative speed force arc more than this crappy cicada one. I'm sorry, the person that won't be named one, because they could have really mined so much with that. And they really touched on it in some of the episodes leading up to the finale, where Thawne did have true affection for Nora, and he used that affection to mess with Barry. And we saw that in the finale, where when they had their showdown there in the plaza, where Thawne really did, or if he didn't have affection for Nora, he definitely played mind games with Barry enough to take her into this negative speed force to try to save her. Right. So those are the things that I wish they had spent more time in 5B than this other weak arc that the character that shall not be named we were dealing with, and
we get it, Will.
Bringing back Chris Klein, which we didn't need, and but all being said, the finale second half of it definitely left me with a better feeling going into season 6 than I did going into the episode.
Yeah, that's the funny thing about both of these finales. The big bad in both of them disappear halfway through, which I thought was interesting. How I was like, oh, we're already halfway through. And one thing that stuck out to me watching the Flash finale, and I haven't been the nicest person to the Flash, I'll admit it. I critique often, is there is something to be said about how those writers find ways, unique ways and creative ways to incorporate, whether it's a revelation, a gadget, a plot point, into the finale, almost reminding you nostalgically everything that occurred in the season, and really building up to, no, this is exactly how we defeat this person, and then the setup for the next person to come afterwards. And I don't know what it was about watching it the other night, but that just stood out to me, and I think that is effective.
Yeah.
Even if to get there, I'm like, hey, I don't need that hour to learn about how this works, but there is a payoff. And so I really like this. My other question is, what the heck, guys? this isn't the Marvel Universe, and yet everybody keeps doing the same effect for people disappearing.
Well, remember though, that effect was actually we first saw that type of effect early on in the series. So, I think now, it's obviously Infinity War. It's like the Matrix. I mean, somebody else did that stop motion stuff before that film, but it's always associated with the Matrix, even though someone else did it before. I think that's happened with the Thanos snap.
Maybe it's just the fact that I saw Endgame twice, and then I go into Doom Patrol and it's there, and then this week on The Flash it's there. Thank God they didn't pull that crap on Arrow, or else I would be like, are you kidding me? Like, it's a lot. And so I'm not necessarily saying copycat as much as we get it. People disappear, and it's really sad, especially if they just disintegrate right in front of you. But there's another way to do that.
Some visual effects team will figure out a new way, because it is becoming overly utilized.
Yeah. And I agree with all of your points. For a moment there, I could have sworn you were going to say, and then they got rid of Cicada, and they revealed the main big bad of the season, Nora.
I wish they really. Especially when they introduced the negative speed force, because that's something that they incorporated from the recent edition of the comics, and it's a great addition, and they really, they touched on it as far as, especially in the finale with Nora realizing that if she kept that power, it would make her completely evil like Thawne. And a couple episodes back where they had the poor man's rogue gallery, because they couldn't afford to bring the real ones back or whatever. Whenever she was first went into the negative speed force, I wish they had done that earlier, and that's when they could have really shown how Thawne was manipulating her, and they could have gone some different story ways with it that unfortunately they won't be able to now, at least through Nora, but maybe we'll see it in season 6 with whoever the villain will be.
Yeah.
So wait, Nora died?
Yep.
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
Oh, I don't watch it, so
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so then why are people saying that she's the reason Crisis starts?
Because she is.
She is. Yeah. She.
Choose me. Choose me. Choose me. Choose me. Choose
Go
me.
ahead, Sarah. Yeah.
Choose me. So actually, in my mind, and Will can correct me, but when she's from the future, so you have to remind yourself that in season 4 of The Flash, she technically created the catalyst, because she went back in time all the way in season 4. During that crossover is the first time we see her in present day. Now what really ends up happening is she is the season finale of that season. She ends up disrupting the timeline yet again, because she DeVoe had a satellite come crashing down on Central City, and she stops it alongside her dad, which leads to her actually revealing herself and the setup for this season. So throughout this season, there's a lot of back and forth. Nora is not Barry. Nora will try 52 times. 56 times? How many times did she try in that single episode to correct the consequence?
There was at least 52.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So when we say that it's all Nora Allen's fault, it's true.
Yeah.
Because she was also manipulated by the Reverse Flash to kill Cicada, to kill Cicada's dagger, and ultimately help him in the future from being incarcerated. So she just goes back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And every time she does that, and ultimately the fact that this allowed for Cicada's dagger to disappear along with future Cicada, it created a new timeline, which at the end of this finale is revealed that the classic newspaper article of the Flash's disappearance, the year change from like 2024 to 2019. Mm-hmm. Now this brings me to an interesting point. And you were talking about how there's 2 quarters of the Crisis on Infinite Earth story arc.
Right.
Some episodes will air in 2019, some will air in 2020.
Correct.
So they already told us that Barry's gonna leave during the final hour in 2019.
I think so.
Okay.
They have indeed.
These writers.
Barry's going to disappear.
Wow.
So, and that's the other thing too, is, getting back to Oliver's sacrifice. One thing, so if you recall, Oliver, Supergirl, and the Flash all die in Crisis, or disappear in Crisis. Well, so in the comic book. So we fast forward Barry's disappearance to 2019. Oliver, his tombstone is 2019. So to me, it seems that the last episode of this year is going to be, at least 2 out of the 3 are going to be killed or sacrificed, and I think Oliver's thing is not so much his deal with the Monitor as much. He's going to be in his mission and helping the Monitor lose his life. But, I don't think it's, now that I've seen it more in context, I don't think it's the deal that Oliver made with the Monitor.
All right, Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
I've been waiting, tactfully to use that comment back on him. I'm so glad he gave me the opportunity.
That goes back to earlier show, y'all.
I think that all 3 of them die.
I know all about him. So.
Oh man. All right. Well, before Will kills more characters, I think that's a wrap tonight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Veronica, as always, it is a pleasure to have you on the show. Why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
Y'all can find me at Nerdy Chicana, and ERDYXICANA on Twitter.
And Will, where can they find you?
You can find me killing characters. I think I'll take out, maybe, I don't know. Tell me who should I take out at Will M. Polk. That's WILLMPOLK.
And you can find me at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on Twitter at CNN Nerd. Friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. But most importantly, rate, subscribe, and comment on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Spotify. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.